Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. First off, adoption of the agenda. Any problems you see with it? Any additions? Omissions? If not, somebody could move. Councillor Carlson? All in favor? Carried. Minutes from the regular meeting, September 9th. Craig, any problems?
Nope, I didn't see any. I will make a motion to accept September 9th minutes as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have Cale Hayes here from the station.
So we did put together a quick presentation, but if you guys don't want that on. Oh, it's going to shine right at you. You might be blinded.
Oh yeah, no, we got her.
Perfect.
Rob, would you mind hitting the other one? Yep, that's the one.
Just
He jumped.
Did you see him
I
jump?
jumped.
Do you want a chair? There's a chair.
Oh, sure. That'd be fantastic. So, my name is Cale Hayes. As mentioned, I'm president of the station here in Claresholm, and some of our colleagues are here. And I'm not sure how much everyone knows about, so I did a very quick background on what the station actually is. We're a community group. We came together. It was a group of citizens here and service providers who came together. All of us are in executive positions at our own nonprofits. One of the challenges we were having in the Claresholm community was that it was very hard for us to get services here. We are able to do so, but it's typically at a cost, through mileage or through paying staff. And I know my contracts pay half of travel time and mileage one way. So we were doing that, but in addition to that, there was nowhere for us to do some of the services, like supervised visits, which are fairly private. So we even had different groups renting hotel rooms for a day to do a supervised visit in a hotel room, making it a little bit challenging. So this group of people got together and started a coalition saying, how can we actually get service providers to this space, knowing that in the rural communities there's an overrepresentation of things like childhood apprehensions, and there's underrepresentations in some like different elements, right? So we said if we could get those services there effectively, great. So we did. We started this brick and mortar space in 2015. We created a society. We established it. And what we did was we allowed any nonprofit to use the space for free. Now, if they were writing a grant for a project in town and they could contribute to like operational costs, fantastic, but we didn't want that to be a barrier to people coming in. So some evidence of the need, we did our stats, we don't have this year's yet, but as of March 31st, 2018, almost 6,500 participants came through. So maybe one participant coming 12 times that year, but individual access. We've demonstrated that by doing this, we can bring service providers in. It started as a group of partnering agencies. I believe there was six.
There were
Six originally. The agencies there at the bottom are the core agencies who are active on the board, but we've had multiple. There was some sheets that I can forward of all the different ones that used it. But some of them include youth drop-in, the parent like stay and play, some soft play programming, and it's really just having a space. So now where we're stuck. So we've been operating this for 5 years. Everyone except for our one navigator who's no longer with us is on a volunteer basis at this program. No one's taken salary ever from the initiative, but we started the initiative as somewhat of a pilot to show that we can actually do it in a very cost-effective way, bring people in, and our plan was to move into the multi-use space back when that was moving forward 5 years ago. So we really had a 1-year plan, and then we pushed it, and then pushed it, and now it's still going. Where we're stuck though right now, the political funding climate right now is a little bit hard for nonprofits. It is, anytime you have a change of government, there's not money coming in. Right. We have been supporting this completely independently of any funding or support up until this point, but we're really stuck where before I was able to pull money out of some of my other programming. All of these individuals have been able to pull money out of their programming, but it comes quite hard when those budgets have shrunk. My one program got cut 12% this year, and I have nowhere to pull $1,000 out to pay rent at the station or do those other things. And it's becoming a harder sell because they're saying, what does that do for your program in Lethbridge? Right? But we're not here necessarily, we're in a tough spot where we do have 2-3 months if we don't find a new grant program where we're going to have to shut down, which is unfortunate because we're looking at the multi-use space. We have all these people coming in and we don't want to stop that momentum. So we were looking for a way, what is an efficient way where there's not a cost to the town, but we could continue providing that support to all these nonprofits. One of the things that had come up was the use of Mackin Hall. So it's my understanding that that hall is dedicated for youth programming, or was gifted to the city for youth programming, and all of the station's programs are youth or family focused. There are some family programs. That space was only being used one night a week currently for the Boy Scouts, Mondays at 7, so there'd be no overlap between when we'd use it and they would. And that cost, eliminating that operating cost, means that we could focus our fundraising on getting additional programming, on getting staff, on getting, which is a much easier sell. It's very, very hard to write grants for operational funding, especially when you're doing kind of a coalition-based project. They always want you to find a new project, so you're writing a grant for a project and trying to pull out a little bit just to cover that rent piece. That was one of the solutions that we had looked at, saying, look, if there's an unused space that we could continue to bring these services into this town, for me that looked like a reasonable compromise. There still is a cost to service providers coming here that's often not reimbursed, but that's also in a lot of our mandates to serve the rural area. So it's an unreimbursed part of our mandate, but it is an important part. So that's what I kept it short and sweet. That's really what we're asking. Would there be an opportunity to use that space, even as an interim space, while this multi-use building got figured out, so that those services could continue to come to town in an efficient way? And that's
Understood.
very
Cool. Thank you.
quick, concise. So any questions or comments, and we can.
So, just to get it straight in my head, FCSS rents out this section of that building, and the station rents out this section of that building.
Yes, the other side. Yeah.
And there's sometimes some confusion thinking that FCSS and the station offer the same type of
Right.
service, right? And it is not the same.
No, two very
at all.
different.
Um,
I appreciate the
And
clarity.
And FCSS does do an extremely good job of connecting to services, which is their mandate.
Indeed.
The
They're
problem,
different.
it's very different, but the challenge we were having before is connect to this service who's in High River.
Yeah.
Connect to this service and they're in
Can't get
Lethbridge,
there.
and you have individuals barred by transportation,
Yeah.
by having young families, or by work hours. And that was one of the things that we tried to overcome, and saying we were attempting to come here in a very ineffective way.
Yeah.
And now we're able to actually have somewhat of a home base to offer those services out of.
Absolutely, run them efficiently.
Yeah.
For sure. Makes sense. Okay.
Marion, how, you looked at the Mackin Hall, and did you talk to whoever's in charge of
Yes,
it?
so Tara touched base with the scout group, and they think they might be using it 2 nights a week upcoming, but they're more than happy to share that space and try and accommodate this programming if necessary.
It seems like a pretty easy fix.
And the one other thing that I did want to add in there is that we are absolutely willing to go into it as a partner. One of the things that is quite nice is the ability to revitalize buildings or bring in funding to fix it up, even in consideration, working in collaboration with Tara, what would work. Because that type of grant funding or that type of project funding is a lot easier to do. I just had ATV completely redo a space for me in Lethbridge, and it was fantastic, right? And that's that type of thing we're willing to really partner and look for ways of even improving that existing space, whether we end up there or not full time, right?
Yeah.
What do you pay for rent there now?
$1,200 a month, which doesn't seem like a super significant cost, but for small
When you're
nonprofits running it off
extrapolating.
the side of our
Yeah.
desks, it is.
What are we gonna have to do to Mackin Hall to make it usable?
It shouldn't be
It's
anything.
usable as is. The only thing that we would need to do, and we're willing to take it on ourselves, it's not an accessible space that doesn't have a ramp.
Right.
We're willing to find that money to put on
To
put on a ramp.
access.
Yeah.
And the bathroom needs renovating for sure. So we can look at a grant to help out with that too.
Yeah,
So
so from
in-
the town, it needs nothing. We would be happy to find money for improvements
So it doesn't
and
need
get
a
them
whole,
approved.
it doesn't need a whole lot to get them going.
We're
Internet.
just giving
if
the
needed.
building,
We would cover that.
just giving the building and they're up and running. Well, to me, it's pretty easy because Mackin Hall's always been, I don't believe it's used enough to keep it there. And this would justify its existence. Because it's only used by scouts. There's no other groups. There used to be cloggers, but I don't think they're in there anymore.
No.
So it to me, it's a perfect way
Use
to
of
get
the
a
space
building
to keep it alive.
utilized.
The building alive. Yeah. Can I ask Marion if she has an opinion on this?
I would agree, I think it's a good use of the building, that's when the idea came up. Tara and I were meeting with Kale and, sorry, Marianne. And we were talking about what's the alternatives, right? And so
Yeah.
we were trying to think of facilities that the town maybe had access to. So there'd be some utility costs, there would be some logistics for booking and that kind of thing that I think we need to work out the details of that.
But
But
that can all be done.
they went and toured the facility and it appears that it would work for them, so I think it would be a good use, at least temporarily and maybe even long-term.
Maybe long term. Well, if it worked out long term, then we would not have to have the extra square footage on the new building too, so that's a,
Yeah, we've only accommodated one office space in the building and then a youth space that
Oh, so
FCSS would be using as
still gonna
well,
be there.
so I think we'd still need that
Yeah,
space
we
for
do,
multi-use.
no, I think it's, what do you guys think?
Seems like common sense.
I agree.
Would you-
Numbers are up there, they get visited, it gets utilized lots.
Yes, utilized.
The station.
Look for another name, or would you still call it the station?
Just my one opinion, I can't speak for everyone, I would probably retain it because service providers do
Understand
actually
this.
know, are starting to get, and we have new ones even coming in. I know Rowan House is one of the ones who's coming in and using the space. There is some awareness of that entity in the non-profit sector.
Yeah.
So I would
So you may as well
likely
keep it.
retain that so
Yeah.
people know.
Yeah. Well, we just have to help people to understand out there what it is. Because I didn't really fully understand, and you didn't, you know, that was just the nature of it. It just felt a bit obscure, and I really appreciate the clarity. Yeah, really valuable, really
Oh, I'm all
appreciate
for
what you've
letting,
done.
Well, thank you guys.
Marion,
So, your policy dictates that you
Should
don't
make a
give
decision right
response
away.
tonight,
That's
it's
right.
usually at the next meeting, so we can maybe work with the station to sort of talk about some of the logistics. And then perhaps bring something back for the next council meeting.
Yep.
For you to make that decision.
that sounds perfect.
Perfect, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, get used to it. I'm looking through these glasses.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot.
I just wanna, can you just give me that thing? I think it, this is the sound when you guys are talking.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just wanna move it. Oh, sorry, honey, that's okay. What are you trying to do? I'm just trying to move that out of it.
Okay. Item 1, bylaw 1658, the emergency management bylaw, first reading. Marion.
Yes, so there was some minor changes to the Emergency Management Act. And so again, with bylaw review, we have been reviewing the emergency management bylaw, made some revisions, basically just to meet with the new terminology and the updated legislation and formulate the body of the bylaw similar to their recommendation. So this bylaw was presented to the Emergency Management Advisory Committee at their annual meeting on September 17th, and it was moved by that committee that the bylaw be presented to council for first reading.
Any questions?
Zero.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make it.
Councillor Schultz? Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to give bylaw number 1658, the emergency management bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Number 2, bylaw 1675, records management retention bylaw. Second and third reading, we've talked about this before. Marion, do you want to give us a little quick overcap again?
Yes, basically this is just to put into a bylaw how we will retain and dispose of records for the town. As discussed, there's 2 types of records that will be kept permanently, and that is our minutes and our bylaws, and those would be given to archives through either the museum or one of those agencies, but they would never be destroyed.
Okay, anybody like to make a second? Councillor Cutler. Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to give bylaw number 1675, the records management and retention bylaw, second reading.
All in favor? Carried. Third reading.
I'll give
Councillor Zimmer.
bylaw 1675 the third reading.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to give bylaw number 1675, the records management and retention bylaw, third and final reading.
All in favor? Carried. Next, bylaw 1676, recycling, first reading. Marion.
Okay, so this is a new revised bylaw, sorry, to address the change in our recycling program that's been proposed. So the recycling services started in 2012, and for a number of years we had a contract with Capital Paper. When that contract came up for renewal, we presented some other options to council at that time to maybe enhance the amount of recycling that we could take. So we were given direction at the budget considerations to put that out for tender and see what those proposals would come back in as. June of 2019, council awarded the contract for the blue bin curbside recycling to Environmental 360 Solutions, and we've been working on that contract to finalize that. So we were scheduled to start October 1st, but for delivery of bins and a couple of things, we're going to have to start November 1st, with the first pickup scheduled for November 5th. In connection to the new program, the new bylaw is required to set out the process, regulations, and fees related to the new program. As you were aware, there's an increase in the fees. It has been $6.56 per month since 2014. And with this change, it would be increasing to, let me pull that up here, sorry. $10.30 per month.
Yeah.
So with that, we understand that that's a substantial increase, but it also enhances the service to the community and the amount of items that we can be recycling. One of the major changes is that commercial recycling will be picked up in the larger bins. And so administration is also preparing a policy that we didn't have ready to present tonight yet, but it will be the recycling materials policy, just so that it aligns with the new recycling program. So the Facility and Infrastructure Planning Committee reviewed this proposed bylaw as well as the rate structure at its meeting on September 9th, and they recommend that council consider first reading of this bylaw.
Any questions?
Just a comment. I was thanked today for bringing the recycling program in Claresholm to the 21st century.
That's nice to know.
That's very nice to know.
Yeah, I've heard
That's
nothing.
fair.
I've heard nothing but positive.
No, people like the recycling
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah.
And we're ahead of the curve here, because a lot of centers are still barely collecting anything.
Right.
So we're definitely getting ahead of the curve. So if somebody would like to make a motion for first reading?
I'll make the first
Thought-
reading for bylaw 1676.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to give bylaw number 1676, the recycling bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Number 4, bylaw 1677, copter bylaw amendment, second and third reading. Marion?
Okay, so bylaw 1677 is presented. It's the property taxation exemption for community organizations bylaw. So again, there was some changes to those regulations in 2019. And basically what they've done is added residential associations and an allowance for them meeting certain criteria to be able to apply for the exemption. So we are recommending, or the changes in this bylaw is that Schedule A be updated to the current regulations. Schedule B be updated for the application for property tax exemption, and that Schedule C be removed. So this is before you for second and third reading this evening.
I'll make a motion for the second reading.
Councillor Cutler? Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to give bylaw number 1677, the copter bylaw amendment, second reading.
All in favor? Carried. Third reading?
I'll make.
Councillor Schultz? Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to give bylaw number 1677, the copter bylaw amendment, third and final reading.
All in favor? Carried. Number 5, bylaw 1678.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So bylaw 1678 is an amendment to the cemetery bylaw. And so as council's aware, the previous columbarium was completely sold, and the new columbarium has been purchased and installed. And when they were looking at the purchase of the columbarium, they decided on a change to the way the door is engraved. So it's becoming less common or more difficult to find someone to do the inscription on those doors. And so we worked with the company that supplied that to do a bronze plaque. And so the new columbarium is all set for those plaques. They're pre-drilled, and so those plaques can be ordered and installed very easily by our staff. The bronze plaques, actually, there's a couple of different options that they can have. There is some limitations in that, but the plaques provide a more uniform look and are cheaper with less inscription being required. So with those changes, amendments to the bylaw needed to be made to include a requirement for the bronze plaques to be purchased from the town through Nelson Granite is who we purchased the columbarium through. And they did give us a discount on the columbarium to have that ability to provide those bronze plaques. So the Admin Services Committee reviewed the bylaw on September 16th at their meeting and recommend first reading of the bylaw.
I went out and had a look at the columbarium today, and it is got the pre-drill in, but it is granite. And I went over to the funeral home, but unfortunately there was nobody there today. But I am very aware of those things. There's lots of companies out there that do engrave them. They're granite doors there. They can be engraved with the holes there or not. If you go and look at the columbariums that have the engraving on them, it looks better than having a trophy there with a brass plaque on it. The idea of belittling burials down to a trophy style brass plaque, I find very offensive.
Thank you.
So I just, I'm totally against this. I just want you guys to know that. I'll go with whatever you guys decide, but I'm totally against this, having personally experienced this. And we shouldn't be in the business of handling the plaques in the first place, because the funeral home they have spare doors there, and they'll make one to fit that. They take the door off, they put a temporary door on, they send the door away to the same company that does the headstones. It's returned and put on. It's not uncommon. They do it all the time over here. So that's my opinion.
We had this.
No.
We had this conversation earlier when we were talking about the headstones and limiting people's
Yeah,
choices
limiting
to what
people,
they
same
want.
thing.
I had the same thoughts over the last couple of days. This is us limiting and monopolizing. You have to use this company with this too, and it just if I buy that columbarium box, I agree. I think that there should be choices.
Well, if you go look at
For
the
your
columbariums there,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is a personal touch on it.
Right.
My curiosity though is, did we make our decision about the columbarium based on that? Did we make that decision? Did we as council, like, are we?
No, we didn't.
that
The
was-
council had nothing to do with
That was
this.
done administratively.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, I
So
just wanna make sure.
I just think, I would,
Plaques are up.
I'm totally against this.
Yeah, I feel
So-
quite
Yeah, the same
uncomfortable
thoughts.
as well.
It's just, it's putting, it's
homogenizing
belittling the
it.
whole system.
It's
You're gonna make a
homogenizing
little
it for
brass plaque that'll
convenience.
turn black in about 10 years, and the uniformity
Right.
takes away from any personal touch. I just don't like
But like we
anything to
talked
do with
about
it.
earlier, it's that personal touch around your loved one, and
Yeah.
if you're limiting that and telling them what they have to do, it's just another stressor or a reason why they might go someplace else to have that service.
And also, it gets the town involved now. We're gonna be ordering brass plaques. Why would we wanna even get into that?
Yeah, I agree.
The funeral home handles the whole thing right now. I don't wanna step on their toes, and I don't think administration wants the job of suddenly going and arranging for the plaques. Like, that's just,
So it's just a normal part of the service when a person passes on and they wanna use a columbarium, then the funeral home takes care of the plaque. That's what a funeral's.
the
So
funeral
it's
home
not
doesn't do the
gonna
plaque. They
make-
take care of the engraving and putting the name on the door. And then they're double vault, so you put the name on one and then the next.
And does that always happen, or would people come to the town and say, I wanna buy one of the columbariums?
Oh, the
Yes,
town
that's
sells
how
all the
it works.
columbariums,
Yeah.
but once they sell it, then the town's done with it.
Okay.
The funeral home takes care of it from there.
I don't see an issue with the town providing the service of the plaque, if that's what the person wants. If they want a plaque, they can order their plaque. It could be modified to put if the funeral home would, if they wanted to personalize an engraving at the same time. I know the cemetery we toured up north where Brandy's relatives are, had a columbarium with the plaques on it. I thought it looked quite nice. But, I mean, do we wanna open it up to the option of having a choice of one or the other, or do you want the uniformity of the columbarium?
I mean, the more information we have would be, like, my question or concern is if I have a brand and I want that brand to be engraved on my plaque, is that an option, or is it just the date, time? You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's just
Yeah.
that personalization piece. I don't know if that's an option.
Well, it's
It
still
didn't
just-
say
The
that
plaque,
in-
sorry, just to answer
Yep.
that question, but the plaque would be more limiting.
Right,
There's basically two options with the plaque.
and that's what they have in here.
Where there's like
Yeah.
14 options for the engraving, plus like on the one I bought, I didn't follow any of them. I just told them what I wanted and they designed
Just
it
did
and
it,
engraved it.
yeah. Like they
And it
installed.
took 2 weeks. It was just, can I get this? Yes, done.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement.
It's totally accessible.
So what we can do then is take this back, look at the options. We won't put it forward for first reading tonight, and then we'll come back with the solution for council if you want to stay with the engraving.
I want to stay with the engraved,
Okay.
for me. I was just thinking for me. I want.
And I personally would give them the option of.
Well, yeah, but you've already given them the option. If you leave
Yeah.
it the way it is, then if they
They can
have what
utilize
it,
the door.
we
and-
don't have to
yeah.
change the bylaw then.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
because the holes are there
Yeah.
to put a plaque on, like they're pre-drilled and pre-ready or whatever, so there's still that option.
And they're still granite, so they can still be engraved.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
find a
table
solution then
this.
to do that.
Number 6, bylaw 1679, Administrative Services Committee. Marion.
Okay, sorry.
We were
Just
busy.
making a note here. Okay, so there's numerous bylaws, bylaw 1679 through bylaw 1686 that are presented tonight. So again, with the review of bylaws, it was determined that some of the internal committees of council did not have a bylaw to establish the committee. The Municipal Government Act states that council may pass bylaws in relation to the establishment and functions of council committees and other bodies. And even though it says may, in essence what it means is council doesn't have to establish a committee, But if you do establish a committee, it should be by way of bylaw, because that's how you give authorization, is either by resolution or by bylaw, and so for committees, it should be bylaw. So, we have before you tonight for first reading, bylaw 1679, which is the Administrative Services Committee bylaw. And these are all structured as per the current committee structure, except two of them. And one is the Audit and Finance, and the other is the FIPSI committee. Currently, all of council sits on both of those committees. FIPSI has one member at large as well. How we've structured the bylaw is that it be a minimum 3 council members, and with FIPSI it'd be a minimum 3 with the member at large as well. That gives council the opportunity to either appoint all members of council, but not less than 3. Okay, so that's the difference, I guess, in those bylaws. So bylaw 1680 is the Audit and Finance Committee bylaw. 1681 Emergency Services Committee. 1682 is the Facility and Infrastructure Planning Committee. And 1683 the Grievance Committee. 1684 Multi-Use Community Building Committee. 1685 Recreation Facility Users Committee, and 1686 the Wage Negotiating Committee. So we would ask for first reading on all of those bylaws individually tonight.
Okay, we'll start with bylaw 1679. Any questions on it?
No.
Somebody like to?
We'll start in this corner.
Councillor Carlson? Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to give bylaw number 1679, the Administrative Services Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. 1680, Councillor Zimmer.
I'll give 1680 its first reading.
Question?
Moved by
Clockwise.
Councillor Zimmer to give bylaw number 1680, the Audit and Finance Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Bylaw 1681, Councillor Cutler. Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to give bylaw number 1681, the Emergency Services Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Opposed, sorry. Carried. Bylaw 1682,
Make that motion.
Councillor Schultz. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to give bylaw number 1682, the Facility and Infrastructure Planning Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Bylaw 1684,
3.
3. Skip one.
I'll move.
That's a Schlossberger. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to give bylaw number 1683, the Grievance Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Bylaw 1684. Councillor Moore.
With a smile.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Moore to give bylaw number 1684, the Multi-Use Community Building Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried. Bylaw 1685. Councillor Carlson. Question?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to give bylaw number 1685, the Recreation Facility Users Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Carried.
Okay.
Bylaw 1686. Councillor Cutler. He wanted the double header. Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to give bylaw number 1686, the Wage Negotiating Committee bylaw, first reading.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. You guys. Okay, number 15. 14, correspondence. The Honorable K.C. Madhu, Minister of Municipal Affairs, the 2019 Minister's Awards for Municipal Excellence. Marion.
Yes, so we submitted the Risk Reduction Community Coalition Initiative to the Safe Communities category for the 2019 Minister's Award for Municipal Excellence. And we have been notified that we will be recognized as the winner of that Safe Communities category. And so the committee highlighted the high educational impact that this has in the community and the creative way in which we have integrated multiple generations and expertise from our community members into the initiative. So that is in great thanks to Jason Hemaway and his work on that program, as well as our FCSS staff has worked closely with him as well. And our fire department and the RCMP, and it really has been a good community initiative.
Absolutely. Well done.
And mental health services, yes, thank you, Councillor.
But not him.
So the presentation of the award will be during the AUMA convention this week, and we are to be in attendance on Wednesday, September 25th at, I was told today, 3:45, be there please. So from 4
Thank you.
p.m. to, I believe, 5 p.m. In Salon 20 at the Edmonton Convention Center.
Okay.
So
Fantastic.
we will be receiving that award there.
Good.
Got a
Take that
speech
for
worked out.
information. Number 15, correspondence, Alberta Rural Development Network and introduction to Arch 2. Mary Lynn.
Okay, so this is the Alberta Rural Coalition on Housing and Homelessness, or ARCH2 is what they call themselves. And so they are looking for the town to become a member of that organization. They would want a signed promise and declaration, which is basically a non-disclosure agreement that ensures that anything said at those meetings remains confidential. And then the paying a membership fee of $100. My recommendation would be that this be something that maybe is discussed at the FCSS board level and ask them to make a recommendation back to council.
Went on their website. I couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really see the benefit for Claresholm myself. It's more of a big rural.
But I do see a benefit reading their articles and stuff, not the homelessness, but the low-cost housing aspect of housing for the low-income senior kind of process. We do have a lack of affordable housing in areas that would benefit resources. Not necessarily, but I do see a benefit in affordable housing, not homelessness.
No, we don't
Right, we
seem
don't
to have that problem
issue,
here.
but I do.
But the low income housing here, we have quite a bit of that here.
We do have,
More
but
than most of the centers that I meet with the other councils, we seem to have most of them beat.
one of the crunches within the community that I've heard about is a lot of people who stay here living on a fixed income, regardless age or senior pensions or those types of things. Trying to retain affordable housing via apartments or those types of things is still a struggle within this community as a whole. A lot of people doubling up and roommating and stuff, but it's just, I mean, we do have great facilities with our housing authority kind of stuff, and we do have lots of family low income. We don't have a lot of single low income processes that help.
No, we only have the one.
And Barb offers that we do have homelessness in this town.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh,
So it doesn't mean that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just not
It's not
a
visible.
wide, you know what I mean? Like, there is an issue.
But I think
there
it's
is
good
still a
to be able
struggle.
to know that it's
Mhm.
here too.
Yeah, oh yeah. But I mean, I didn't go on the website, I was reading their articles and those types of things, I didn't try, I didn't have time to research.
Well, can
it.
we have FCSS refer back to us for the next council meeting?
That would be my
Okay,
recommendation.
let's take that recommendation and apply with it. Correspondence, Town of Coaldale. Arian.
Okay, the town of Coaldale is hosting a municipal law seminar on Wednesday, October 23rd, and they're inviting council, CAO, and senior management. When I looked at the agenda, it looks like the majority of this would be to do with council's role, council's responsibilities, as well as pecuniary interest, code of conduct, all of those kind of things. So again, I think it's a good refresher for council to attend those sessions, and, Councillor Cutler wasn't on council when the first year of the term, and so maybe didn't have the same opportunity as the rest of you to attend those, so.
I feel like I'm filled up with those trainings right now. But maybe you need some, Mike.
Yeah, when I looked at it, it'd
Definitely
be
does,
interesting
definitely needs a little touch up there.
to look at the conflict of interest and stuff and those kinds of. But yeah, it was something I was interested in.
Well, let's, anybody that's interested in going, let administration know, and so we can get registered.
Okay, yes, we need to register by Friday the 11th, so.
So we got some time.
you
Okay, I'll leave it with each individual councillor to decide if they're gonna go or not. Number 17, correspondence for rural municipalities of Alberta.
Wow.
McKinnon, oh, it's the analysis of the McKinnon report. Marion,
So we have two analyses here in front of you tonight. One is from RMA, which is the Rural Municipalities Association, and then AUMA, which is the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association. And it's basically their review of the McKinnon report on the provincial finances. Nothing in their analysis is really, I think, a surprise to us.
no.
Most of it is very similar to what I discussed with council at the previous meeting on concerns within that report and the effect that that may have long-term on municipal funding from the province and municipal responsibility. So it's just there for your information, unless you have any questions for me.
I love the part where the board that studied this felt there was lots of room for downloading onto municipalities. Like,
Right.
lots of room, it says.
Yeah, and then they talk about how we're taxing the same taxpayer for the same taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite the interesting.
It's quite a, it's conflicted
Mhm.
within itself.
Mhm.
Oh, well. Any questions on it? It's not good for us in the long run. That's
Just waiting for the
bottom
impact.
line,
Just waiting for the impact.
waiting for the
Anyone hear
impact.
some views expressed in Edmonton here this week?
Yeah, it should be interesting what we hear up there.
Yeah.
Especially about like downloading the policing to us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, and that's of course our own body, AUMA driven, because they represent the cities before us. So. And I'll be sure to point that out to whoever listened to me.
Attaboy. That's why you're there.
Okay, we'll take that for information. Move on to 19. Fortis, Alberta, Marion.
This is just notification that Fortis has submitted a rate change on September 13th to the Alberta Utilities Commission, so the proposed rates are just there for your information.
Okay, we'll take that for information. 20, Claire's Home Indoor Walking Group, Marion.
Okay, so the indoor walking group has sent a letter requesting that the town consider funding the $1,000 for the rental of the Claresholm Community Center for their 2019 and 20 season. We did ask them to fill out the donation request, but they declined to do so. But we said we would still bring it forward to council. We have
Nice.
been funding this for a number of years. And I guess if they don't want to fill out the donation request and it's something that council wants to continue to support, perhaps a better option would be that we look at including this as a program under our annual budget, just so that it automatically happens without them having to request through the policy.
That would be my vote.
Well, that's the future. So I've read this and Mary and me have talked about this, and I agree. Put it forward for for budget consideration for the next one. But for this one, we make every organization that comes to us, whether they be young or old, fill out the forms.
Yeah.
I think if they want this money,
They should have
they
to fill
should
out the form.
cooperate and fill out the forms, because if we don't, then the next group that comes
Don't.
don't have to either. Because if we don't make them do it, nobody has to.
What? Oh,
But I do agree, let's just, for the future, incorporate in, we do it every year, we'll incorporate it into next year's budget. So put it forward for consideration, but for this year, I would like to see them do the paperwork, because why are they special that they don't have to?
I have a question regarding the usage of the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If we have somebody who wants to rent the hall the Wednesday, Thursday from 8 in the morning on, do we move them, or are they solid in there every day from 9 to 8? Are they
It's
flexible?
mobile, right?
That's, they do leave the building when necessary, but that's, at the discretion of the board at the community hall.
So then,
So
we're-
there would be bookings.
So if
How's your
something big came
relationship
up,
with
there's a
them?
possibility to
How's your
bump them up.
relationship with them, like with the board, the community board's relationship with the walking group?
No
Brad?
comment.
Thank you.
Well, Brad, we need a comment.
yeah, it's just,
It's not good.
And
Plain
why?
and simple. They don't cooperate. They complain continually. They complain about everything. They
I
complain
just-
about Shane.
I just struggle with tying up the building for 3 days a week if we have somebody who, and if
They
they're not-
don't. They don't
don't.
tie it up. They
It's in the
we
morning.
make them leave
Okay,
or
they
change their time.
change their times or something, okay. Okay, yeah, that's what,
Is
I
it
mean,
good for the people that use it? Is it well used, the walking group?
It varies.
Be very weather dependent to be my bet. If it's nice
Give me
out,
a-
I'm sure
give
they
me
stay.
a-
No?
give me
They
an
all
average.
they all want to walk in the hall. They
Oh.
don't want to walk outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, fair
no,
enough.
it's-
Well, give me an average,
I
like
think
20
it's
people?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
20 people be your average?
Yeah.
I think that's really
I think it's a useful
healthy to support that. I think it's a good idea.
to provide that
support
It is,
opportunity.
but I still think they need to fill out
And-
the sheet.
No,
Well, it's,
We've put up a donation bottle, hoping,
Yeah.
drop a toonie in the barrel.
Yeah,
no,
pay for service?
No.
Nothing?
No.
To
In
help
fact,
offset.
Shane got chastised for putting
putting
it
it
there.
out.
Well, I'm sure. Wow.
Okay, well, can we leave it at that? As soon as we get the paperwork, we'll look at this year's funding, and we'll refer it to next year's budget considerations. We don't need a motion for that,
So
that's
we're gonna
just a
wait for the
direction.
paperwork in order to make it, if we don't provide the paperwork, then there's no decision to be made.
it's a donation to their group.
Yeah,
I'm
that
thinking
it's
that
being provided for them, right? They could very
Yeah.
easily pay $2 a person. That would be a really easy gesture
Yeah, I
on
don't-
their part.
I
And
think
so
it
if we
is
can
a-
provide that
I
service,
think
it's
it
okay
is a
if
good
they
thing
fill out the form.
if we put it in the budget, but if, why don't they, why are they, I'm sorry, but I'm a senior too.
Special.
Why are they so special they don't have to follow any of the regulations we laid out, so.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're providing a service. Fair enough. They can fill out the form.
Okay, move on. Number 21, request for decision, Fortis Alberta franchise fee. Marion,
Okay, so annually, we, just like we did with APCO at the last meeting, we have the option to notify Fortis whether we wanna change to their franchise fee for the upcoming year. So Fortis has a electrical distribution system franchise agreement with the town, which gives them exclusive franchise to provide electric distribution services within the boundaries of the town. So when the agreement was put in place in 2013, the rate was 2%. In 2016, I believe it was increased to 4%, and that took effect January 1st, 2017. So administration is recommending that council keep the franchise fee percentage at 4% for 2020.
if we increase it, we're just penalizing every resident in town, correct?
Exactly.
Because it just goes on their bill.
Yeah, it just goes right on the bill.
Yeah, so why
Say no.
would we,
It's
why
just-
would we want to
Just
do
like the
that?
gas one.
Just like the gas one, so.
I just want to note it that we're
We're still.
one of the lowest out
Oh,
there.
for sure.
Yeah, I looked at some of those
Noted.
comparables.
Well, and one of the reasons councils chose to keep it low is for the economic development benefit, and you can see that in the resolution, that's part of the rationale for the greater benefit of the economic development and environment here, so.
Well, and just for the
Nice.
residents also, I mean, it's good for the economic development, but the residents too. You increase it, they're gonna increase their fees.
I can believe that there were some 20%ers in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that amazing?
Right at the top, eh? They can do that?
15, 18.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to maintain the 4%.
Nice.
I think you made the motion for 4%.
For 2020, yes.
3 years, would we have to raise this at some point, like next
No, we don't
year?
ever have to. It's optional.
But it's revenue for the town as well?
It's revenue for the town, but you're penalizing your residents at the same time. And it's
Equivalent to an
not,
extra tax that they.
maybe someday in the future it might be necessity for the town, but at this stage, I don't feel it is.
4 is enough.
It's working with their budget.
I think it is for now. 4 is good. So.
Okay, we have a motion from Councillor Zimmer. Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to maintain the franchise fee percentage at 4% for 2020 as per Clause 5A of the Electric Distribution System Franchise Agreement with Fortis Alberta Inc. This decision is to emphasize the town's commitment to economic development and to attract businesses by keeping franchise fees low.
All in favor? Carried. Number 22, request for decision, local improvement tax acreages. Marion?
Okay, on May 14th, 2018, a resident from that subdivision came in and talked to council about the condition of the roads and, you know, how could that be done better?
Yeah.
So that was referred then to budget discussions, the 2019 budget discussions. Council deemed that it would be appropriate that the cost of rebuilding that road would be borne by the residents by way of a local improvement tax. So administration prepared a local improvement plan. We sent the information out to the property owners, and as well we held a meeting with those landowners on September 5th to provide them an opportunity to give us some face-to-face feedback. And I definitely got some face-to-face feedback, so that was amazing.
Did you get a good turnout?
Yes, we did. The room was full. Of the 30 affected property owners that were circulated, we received 28 responses back, of which 27 of the 28 said they did not support the tax. So further feedback received during the landowner meeting was that most residents don't care if the road is paved, they just want the road base fixed and it could be left as gravel as far as they're concerned, but they do think that the base does need to be rebuilt. So the way the local improvement tax works is it requires 2/3 of the property owners owning 50% of the assessed value of the land to be in favor or against, which here we've obviously deemed that they're against, so the local improvement tax cannot be imposed.
Mm-hmm.
So administration is looking for some direction from council, I guess, because this is in our 2019 budget. Do you want us to try and find the funds to go ahead without the local improvement tax? We did have it by way of borrowing to be repaid by the local improvement tax levy. Or do you want us to just postpone it and take it back for the 2020 capital plan discussions, and we can discuss it a little further as to how we can maybe get this project completed in the future.
That was my take on it.
I think
to defer it.
I think until we see provincial budgets, we're in a position where we should push it to 2020.
So for clarity, when we talk about a base on the road, they don't want the base repaired or replaced or.
There is no
built
base
up.
under this road, is there?
There is no base that's under
Yeah.
there. So it's about pulling that up, building a base and putting whatever we put down.
And how many millions of dollars would that potential project be? Of just
Well,
building
I-
that base, that would be $5 million?
No, but it's gonna be, I mean, we don't have figures right now.
No, but like a ballpark, $3 million,
It's just gravel?
$1 million.
Probably
It just
to rebuild the road base,
couple of $1 million?
I would say probably $1 million.
Million, you
If you're
think?
not
That's it?
paving and curb and gutter and
Well,
stuff,
it-
it might.
Oh, without, yeah, there's no curb and gutter.
It also depends what you run into. It's also
Yeah.
a low-lying
So
area
I-
too, right?
I'd have to get those numbers firmed up,
But
but
one of the residents.
it wouldn't be
actually says
millions
it's
of dollars,
But
but
it's big money.
Actually, we checked, somebody mentioned that
Uh-huh.
they don't
did.
have it, and
They don't have a curb.
they
out there
don't
for
need
the
a curb.
recycling.
They don't need a curb.
But I just wasn't understanding the whole process of the base, but there is no base out there.
No, it was just, they just scraped the grass off and put gravel down, and that was the road.
there wasn't a proper base.
And
It's
then
not a
while we
proper
put the
base.
proper base down there, we gotta replace a bunch of water.
No,
Bunch of-
well, we
Well,
would, the water,
Yeah.
the water line is getting up
Right.
in age, and it would have to be,
That's what we
replaced.
looked at as part of the budget discussions,
Right.
was if we were going to go in and pave the road, and build the proper road structure, we wanted to replace the water first, so we didn't have to
Right.
dig it up in the
Exactly.
future.
Right.
One of the suggestions that came up during the landowners meeting is, you know, if you're gonna cause they'd like to see the water line redone,
I bet.
because, it is, again, it was a substandard product that was put in
Oh, it
out
was.
there. And so, they suggested that perhaps that could go in the road right of ways rather than, like in the boulevard, rather than in the road. But, you know, we haven't pursued that further as well.
ditches are
so.
pretty deep in that whole subdivision for
Yeah,
that.
I didn't look at the
Logistically, I don't think
ramifications,
that
but that
would
was
work.
one of the suggestions that was made by the property owners, so.
Well, it sounds like for costing and not knowing where we're at with the province, Councillor Carlson's idea of pushing it ahead for the 10-year budget would be more.
Yeah. If it's gonna be that high price.
Well, and it's, I mean, we had the local improvement tax on 8th Street.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, but
think
once it's, I mean, it has to be approved by the residents, so
But
it's, can't have
it's
it.
because they didn't have to redo the base, right? I mean, you have to pay for it somewhere.
So we'll table, we'll just push this to
We do
budget.
have a proposed motion.
To defer Acreage's road build to future budgets. Oh,
Yep.
so, would we like to make that? Councillor Schlossberger. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to defer the Acreage's road building project and refer it back to future budget discussions.
All in favor? Carried. 23, request for decision, banking services request for proposals. Marion?
Okay, so, the town has banked with ATB since 1988, and we're uncertain as to when those services actually last went out to tender. So if you recall, we presented a policy, I believe, last meeting or the meeting before, with regards to
Meeting
best
before.
practices for tendering those ongoing contracts on a regular basis. So we did put our banking services out for tender. It does fall well under the limits for the Northwest Free Trade Agreement, and therefore we didn't have to go to public tender, but we did do it by invitation. So we sent it to 5 different organizations, and so we actually 6, I apologize, ATB, Credit Union, CIBC, and BMO in town, and then as well to Scotiabank out of Pitcher Butte, so 5. And we got a response back from all 5 of those. After review and based on the criteria that we had as part of the tender package, BMO and CIBC were very similar, and you know, those are large proposals, and it was kind of hard to differentiate between them, but BMO was rated number 1 because of their pricing and their return on investment on our account. So we are recommending that we accept BMO's proposal and direct administration to finalize the details of that contract with them.
Questions? Motion?
I guess I've got one question. Administration feels the cost savings are substantial enough to make that switch.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Be like a 5-year contract or?
Yeah, that would be the
Okay.
intent.
The
We would
intent?
be reviewing this within 5 years, right? As per the policy, I believe it's 5 years.
Can't remember. It's two councils ago.
Yeah, I believe the policy says a minimum 5 years.
That answer your question, or you want to know figures?
No, that's fine.
Is 5 years too long?
No, I don't think so, because by the time, there is some administrative cost to getting it set up, but
Yeah.
it's nominal, right? I mean, a lot of the banking systems are very similar now, it's just a matter of getting used to BMO rather than ATB or whatever. And we've had really good service from ATB, you know, it's not that, we just wanna make sure that we're being fair, right, that we're giving opportunity to all businesses. And that,
And it is a
we're getting the best value for
Yeah,
It's a business
I know.
decision.
right?
based
I know.
on
I just
numbers.
went through doing a switch within my own personal business here in the last year and a half, and the amount of time and effort was significant enough that I questioned my
Decision.
decision. So
All right.
as long as administration's happy with that, I'm more than willing to make that motion, or support Brad's motion, sorry.
Yeah, Blair will do it.
Well, if Blair's doing
it's
it,
okay
absolutely.
with
So
Mary
I
Ann.
don't mind at all.
That's on. That's
I do a little.
That's my boy. He'll take care of it.
Councillor
Blair's
Schlossberger,
got
are you
it.
still making that motion?
Yes.
Question.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to accept BMO's proposal for the banking services and direct administration to work with them on finalizing the details of the contract.
All in favor? Carried. Number 24, request for decision, letter of support, Claresholm Skate Club for a CFEP grant. Marion?
Okay, so the skate club is applying for a CFEP grant for repair to the roof and floor at the arena in the mezzanine area. There was some misunderstanding that this would qualify for the large stream because that's over 125,000. But it actually is a small stream because the share is under 125,000.
Oh, it goes on the part that they give.
It's on the share, yeah. So, we're still asking for the letter of support. We did miss the September 15 intake, but there's another one in January, so we'll prepare everything and have it sent in for the January intake.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Schultz? Question.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to provide a letter of support and commitment for municipal funding in the amount of $84,653.82 for the Claresholm Skating Club's CFIP grant application for the arena roof and floor repairs.
All in favor? Carried. 25, request for decision, a letter of support, Learn a Lot School Community Foundation Grant. Marion?
Okay, the Play School continues to work on grant applications to help fund the facility. And they would like to make an application to the Community Foundation of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta for a Community Priorities Grant. They need to either be a CRA registered charity or be in partnership with a municipality or school. And so they're asking for the town to be the partner on this grant application. So we do have a resolution proposed there. There's no additional financial commitment, but it's just being the partner on the grant.
Councillor Cutler?
Make that motion.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to partner with the Claresholm Learn a Lot Play School in support of their application to the Community Foundation of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta for the purpose of the new play school facility.
All in favor? Carried. 26, request for decision, policy manual review and updates, finance. Marion?
Okay, hold on, here we go.
Wow.
So again, with our full policy review, we have presented these proposals, policy changes to the Administrative Committee, and they're here as recommended in this background, or I'll go through each of the policies, just a general statement on each of them. First is policy 5.1.01, community donation policy. This was a renumbering, and then also we included Clause 5 to address ongoing or cyclical funding as noted in the policy 5.1.06, which is being recommended to be rescinded. Also, we removed the clause that donation requests only be reviewed quarterly, because those are coming in monthly. At the time the policy was adopted, it was intended that we would just have an intake every quarter, but didn't seem to be working for the organizations, so we're recommending that that be removed. So then we have policy 5.1.05, which is community organizations insurance reimbursement policy, and we had a few minor changes. Point 2, we put as a note to the policy rather than part of the policy. The point specified that the town and the Agriplex had a standing agreement to repay the insurance, and so even though the agreement doesn't need to be part of the policy, we wanted it to be noted in the policy so that if the policy is changed in the future, it's understood by the councillors of the day that the policy does not supersede the agreement that was already in place with the Agriplex, which is different than the other organizations. Then we have policy 5.1.06, which is assistance to community groups. This policy states that council shall by motion authorize the drafting of an agreement between parties who are requesting funding. Community groups are already addressed in our donation policy, and so it is our recommendation that this policy be rescinded and that it's referred to in the donation policy. Policy 5.1.10 is a charitable donation receipt policy, and there was a formatting change, but then we had one minor addition to that, and that's to address scenarios where town council is wanting to assist community groups that are not controlled by the town, but issuing charitable donation receipts to donors of projects can still happen. So basically an example of that would be where, let's say somebody wants to donate to the golf course. So they can't donate to the golf course and have the town give a charitable receipt, but they could donate to the replacement of the roof on the clubhouse, and the town could give the charitable receipt because we are still the owners of the facility. So in essence, the money is benefiting the town.
Right.
So we just clarified that in the policy. Then policy 5.1.15 is a cancellation or refund of tax policy. So this policy would be used to cover situations such as the forgiveness of taxes on the medical clinic that occurred in the last couple of years, as well as forgiveness of other nonprofit organizations. So some of those fall under Copter, but this is different than Copter. 5.1.20 tax penalty forgiveness policy, there's no change to that other than formatting. 5.1.30 offers to purchase land. So this was a policy, in essence, that said a purchaser is responsible for the drafting of any and all offers and agreements. So in order to simplify and reduce policies, we're suggesting that that policy be rescinded because a citizen would need to make an offer to council or to the town to make a purchase. So 5.1.40 is a request for financial assistance for sports groups. So this policy states the council will not provide financial assistance for sports groups to attend functions outside of the town of Claresholm. Those parameters are already identified in the community donation policy again, so we're recommending this is redundant and just should be rescinded. Policy 5.1.50 is the MSI operating grant. So that policy basically stated that organizations would have to apply to be funded out of the MSI operating grant. Over the last number of years, the MSI operating grant has actually been used to offset the library costs. And so, again, we're recommending that the policy be rescinded because those organizations are applying through our community donation policy rather than this MSI policy. So, as I said, the Admin Services Committee reviewed the policies at their meeting on September 16th and recommend Council pass a resolution to adopt the amended policies by resolution and also repeal the policies that are recommended by resolution.
Okay, I'll move to.
I've got a question first.
Go ahead.
On the resolution, how come the date is effective June 10th?
Oh, you know
That
what?
was an error in his, and I fixed it in the actual motion that I.
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
nope, sounds
That
good.
would have been, he probably was just using a previous.
I was just wondering if we were allowed to
Sorry, I didn't
backdate
catch that. Good catch, Council.
stuff, but
Okay, so it's been changed to effective today.
yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Then
Motion?
will I make that one?
Councillor Schultz,
I'll make the motion to adopt the updated town policies.
question?
Moved by Councillor Schultz to adopt the updated town policies as follows, effective September 23rd, 2019. 5.1.01, the community donation policy version 1.0, which was previously CEDC 1215. 5.1.05, the community organizations insurance reimbursement version 1.0, previously GAO 316. 5.1.10, charitable donation receipt policy version 1.0, previously GA 1117. 5.1.15, forgiveness of taxes policy version 1.0, which is new. 5.1.20, tax penalty forgiveness policy version 1.0, previously tax 0915.
All in favor? Carried. Motion 2,
Nice
to repeal the following policies.
I'll make a motion to repeal the 4 following policies.
Councillor Zimmer? Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to repeal the following policies. 5.1.06, assistance to community groups. 5.1.30, offers to purchase land. 5.1.40, request for financial assistance, sports groups. 5.1.50, municipal sustainability initiative, MSI operating grant.
All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, policy manual, request for decision, liquor and town facilities drop-in center event. Marion?
So there's a request, someone is holding a 65th birthday celebration at the drop-in center. And as per town policy, they need council approval to be able to have alcohol at that facility. They would also need to provide proof of insurance naming the town as an additional named insured and securing their own liquor license from AGLC. The policy is attached. There are 4 events or 4 facilities: the golf club, the curling club, the community center, and the agriplex that don't require council approval, but the balance of town facilities do.
I got a question. How does the drop-in differ from the community hall? They hold, it's held by a private society. They hold private functions there. It's just like the golf course. It's just like the community hall. I don't quite understand why it falls into the not allowed category.
It's the way the policy is currently sits. So if council wants us to review that policy and bring back the amendment, I would agree that they operate very similar. They're run by a board, they rent it out, they collect all the revenue for that.
The other question I had too was the Millennium Ball Diamonds.
Again, run by a society.
Well,
Let's just
they're
address
not.
the one.
They're run by the town. The ball diamonds are run by the town.
Oh, they
I
are.
mean,
But-
minor ball rents it
Yeah.
or whatever.
But I'm just using an example, I don't wanna stir the pot, but I'm using the example of Claresholm Fairdays Ball Tournament.
Mhm.
There was no permission by council to allow them to have a beer gardens at the Millennium Ball Diamonds,
No.
right? Like, they didn't write a letter for permission to have alcohol.
Yes,
Yeah.
they did request that this year, to
Okay.
camp there,
Oh.
to camp there and use, I
The
thought
camp
was-
there.
But not to have
There
alcohol in the
There
There
premises.
wasn't a beer
Oh, I
garden.
thought they did, but
I think it was just to camp there.
Right,
did they
just to
have
use
a
it.
beer gardens at the?
Yeah.
They do every year.
Oh.
That's why I don't wanna start, cause, you know, because they have it every year, but I just don't recall giving, like, I just noticed it was under the one that had to ask permission.
Well, rather than have a long discussion on this,
Yep.
how about we address this one issue and then send the policy back to administration for review? Would that be okay? So, are we good with that one event?
Yes.
Councillor Schlossberger? Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to approve the use of the Claresholm Seniors Drop-In Center for the service of liquor by Neil and Linda Schuler on November 15, 2019, provided that they adhere to all provincial/municipal regulations as required by policy 5.8.15.
All in favor? Carried. And then we could request a review of that policy.
So that should be by resolution.
Okay.
Direct administration to review the policy.
Somebody like to make a motion? Councillor Cutler? Because I don't see how that's, makes sense. I can see it, you're not allowed in town facilities where people are working, but when it's run by a private society.
How's the insurance work?
That's why
Well, that's part of the policy we'll be reviewing and see.
town is named as
Yeah,
second.
we've got that Schedule A on policy 9-10.
But it would be the facilities insurance that may be the problem, you're correct.
And that once we review it, then we'll know all the answers. Okay, question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler for administration to review policy 5.8.15 and bring back a revised policy for consideration to council.
That meet what you were looking for? All in favor?
Hang on, well, hang on, well, sorry, too late.
You're a little late,
Okay,
but go ahead.
well, I was, isn't it the policy that we have already that we want checked, not,
That's what they're doing.
not Neil's? We don't want 5.18.15, we want
That's the policy they fall under.
GA 9-10.
No, the new number is the 5.1.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, that was carried.
Too many numbers, get confused now. Sorry, all in favor?
You missed.
I'm in favor.
28, request for direction, police costing and model engagement. Marion?
Okay, so at the last council meeting, I reported on the Alberta Justice and Solicitor General's plans to adjust the police costing model for, as it applies to communities in Alberta. We had an opportunity to evaluate the financial implications for the town, and the table in your background gives you those implications. So at the lowest percentage that they're proposing is 15%. The annual cost to the town would be $85,111. That's using the 2018 equalized assessment. So as equalized assessment changes and as population changes, those figures will change as well. Just so that you're aware, we're working on 2018 numbers here. So that's actually an increase to our current municipal taxes, so the amount that we collect in taxes of 2.65% at the lowest. The highest is 70%, and that's an implication of $397,022, which is a 12.36% increase to municipal taxes. So obviously, these figures indicate a significant impact to our local tax base. And as council, you'll be faced with even greater challenges trying to balance your budget and fund priorities when this has such a significant impact on the local taxpayer, and that we would have to collect on the province's behalf again.
Would it be Well, go ahead, I'll ask
No.
questions at the end.
I was just gonna say, as part of the process, they're asking for us to participate in the engagement process, and so I'm looking for some direction from council as to what the content of that response should be. I've also been invited to a second webinar, because it sounds like they're getting a lot of phone calls from municipalities. And I'm unable to be part of that webinar because of a prior commitment. So Blair is going to be part of that, and we'll have a report coming back to council for that as well. But the deadline for submission, I think the new webinar is October 4th, and the deadline for submissions is October 15th, which will be just after our next council meeting. But I think we probably know what our response is.
Well, we don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's easy for the, and this is I go back to AUMA protecting the big cities, because that's exactly what this is. The AUMA sponsored and started this whole drive for police funding from small communities. But where does this money come from? Like, does the province, if in this webinar, if we can sit there and just ask, you know, how the province, this continual downloading, because they're doing away, they're cutting back on our funding, and now they're saying in their report that more should be downloaded onto us because we have lots of room. Where do they find this room? We were already taxing our residents, I feel, substantially. To start increasing their taxes like 10%, let's say for an average, if we go in the middle, that's a substantial increase. And even if it's done, like, would it be done in the way of requisition, like with the lodge and?
They don't know.
That, it wouldn't make me any better feeling paying it, but I would like to see it done. That's one thing I would recommend they do. Because if there's gonna be blame, I'd like to be able to say, you know, the town didn't pick this.
Right.
This is a requisition, and we can show it to the residents. It's directly from the government you elected.
So,
I'm pretty sure that's what they're gonna have to, but
go ahead. I'm thinking maybe,
Very great.
I don't know, I don't think I'm completely grasping everything, is my thing. When it says 15% cost recovery options of frontline, so we would have to come up,
Mm-hmm.
where's the other 85%?
Government
Province.
still, the province is.
Province is doing 100% right now. It's the city, anything over 5,000 is paying for their own policing.
So what
The
community in the
province
right
covers the
mind
rest.
would pay the 70% one?
No,
They're
this
gonna
is
tell us.
this is where it's going to end up. We
Oh,
won't
they
have an
tell,
option.
we don't get an option.
they get
No,
to,
no.
they get to choose.
They're
Oh.
picking.
And
Yeah.
this was
That's
the-
what I was
this
like.
And this was the discussion that we had last time around. We didn't know where that money was going to either. Like, they weren't able to tell us where they were prioritizing that recovery money to. They still have no idea where.
So if the government
Well,
says
as far as what I'm getting out of it, they're just gonna put it into general funds because they're covering the cost of what they're paying now. They're not gonna enhance the service
Right.
any.
so if the government says we're responsible for 15% of the policing bill, that 85,111 comes on us to make up.
Either it'll come on us to send them a check, or it'll come, like it seems the school board and the seniors housing, it'll come as a requisition on our taxes.
Well, they can requisition us without allowing us to tax that, like.
Without us
separate,
putting
right?
it,
So, I mean, they can requisition us, it's like just sending us a bill.
but we wanna do it so
But
that
you
we can
wanna
make
be
it
able to-
public.
You want it to be a separate line item on taxes, like the school tax,
Yeah.
where it's they set the rate based on the equalized assessment.
Well, I don't like any of them numbers.
No, there's none to like.
No.
But if you pick the middle, go 10%.
I don't know.
Now, one of the messages that has come back, interestingly enough, is, well, this isn't written in stone, we're just investigating this as a model, but just.
If they're investigating, it's gonna happen.
But it seems there's more momentum to it.
It's gathering more momentum every year, because when it first came out, I was quite vocal, and I got a hold of the other communities around us, and we all administrations sent letters protesting it, which got us.
How does this change the city's
Nothing.
It
Police.
doesn't.
They're
It
already
doesn't.
paying.
It just means
Yeah.
the provincial government's not gonna be
So
covering
any of the
costs.
municipalities that are currently paying for any of their policing, they don't pay for 100%, but they pay for a portion of it or a major portion of it. It depends on each municipality and what they qualify for grants. But this program is not intended to change their funding model at all. It's only for the 291 municipalities that currently do not pay for policing.
So the
Under
5,000
under
and
5,000.
5,000 and under, and rural municipalities, counties and MDs.
Well, the
Now,
MD must
I
be
don't-
screaming about this too.
that was gonna be my question, if we're in a position where, Claresholm RCMP cover Grantham, Stavely, the MD, are they trying to do full cost recovery of that, patrol base on a percentage basis of population?
That's how I understood it, and it'll be
So-
based on, I mean, there's all kinds of background information there, but it would be based on, you know, what an average of 3 years of their caseload and those kind of things,
So-
right? To determine what percentages per what.
So Claresholm being the largest population base of that area.
Well, yeah, these numbers that I got from the province here, that we did the analysis on, this is how the model will work,
Yeah.
right?
Fort McLeod would get Grantham.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be necessarily
Hopefully.
us being the bigger population. It's going on the record of calls. So if,
Well, yeah, I don't know how complicated that formula is in the background, I really don't.
well, we're gonna have to get more
This
information.
formula, the way because I was able to take the numbers they gave me in the first webinar I was in, and then I took our equalized assessment and did the calculations, and I came up to pretty close to the same numbers, except I was using our 2019 equalized assessment, so my numbers were a little higher than theirs. So
Probably a
that's
little more
all,
accurate.
yeah, that's all been established in the formula.
My only other question would be, with the requisition going to the province, those funds, have they indicated, I mean, Doug said general revenues, but have they indicated at all, where those funds would be allocated? It just disappears into general revenue, it's not a percentage of a policing budget for
Yeah.
a pool back to increase the city's
Well, that's what they,
contributions or.
yeah, that's what they told us in the first webinar, was they didn't know where the funds would be used. But since there's been correspondence coming out again, they're getting pressure, right? So they're saying, well, it would be used for policing, but we don't know exactly where that's gonna.
No, but it's gonna get, if it washes out, if they're spending
It's gonna help the
$20
policing
million
budget.
on RCMP in the rural area, it's gonna go into that pot to cover that $20 million. They're trying to reduce their overhead. So they're riding on our back now.
It's-
Yeah, I think they'd be hard pressed to prove that they had enhanced policing
Yeah.
because of the.
I don't think you'll see
There's
it.
a lot of non-tangibles, so.
So do we become involved in staffing, RCMP?
Nothing changes.
No.
No, we just give them a
Just
check.
pony up and.
Now, there's certain parts of the policing that, you know, this is administrative and frontline, right? So there's certain parts of RCMP, service that still is intended to be covered by the province, like some of their special forces and those kind of, you know, investigative teams and those kind of things, right, are still part of the provincial costs.
It'll be an interesting sell job they've got to do.
So is there
Better be
anything
good.
else you would like
So if we talk
pointed
about-
out on behalf of the town in this next webinar?
We talk, well, we'll provide a response that I can put into this, system.
Yeah.
I can read.
But the downloading of costs, we don't have room for that. The requisition needs to be the same as the school tax, and then just an indication of the impact to our municipal taxes.
Anything else?
I would like to know where are you putting it?
Well,
Where's the money going?
they're gonna pay for the RCMP that they're already paying for. They can't afford to pay for what they're paying for now, so they're gonna get us to do it. It's gonna go into general revenues to cover the cost of policing.
I'm doing it, yeah.
Well, I'd like them to tell me that.
I'd like the honorable.
Yeah, but they'll
Mr.
butter it
Kennedy to
up and
kiss
they'll
me
make it
first.
1,000 words instead of 3.
The savings gonna go to that they're gonna enhance another program.
No, they need the savings because they're in a deficit and they're trying to save $30 billion in the first budget.
Ooh, we get tight.
Oh, 12%.
Okay, so we'll move on from that.
Can't even.
I don't even know where we'd get that.
We'll go to 28, request for direction, no. 29, financial report, statement of operations, August 31. Any questions?
Nope. I'll make a motion to accept the income statements for August 31st as presented.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to accept the consolidated statement of operations for the month ended August 31st, 2019, as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Number 30, information brief, Emergency Advisory Committee. Marion.
Okay, so, as per the local authority emergency management regulation, the town has established an emergency advisory committee. That committee is to meet once a year, and it's comprised of 2 members of council as well as myself. And their role is to advise council on the development of emergency plans and programs, as well as to provide guidance and direction to the emergency management agency. Mayor Doug McPherson and Councillor Craig Zimmer are the appointed council representatives to the committee, as well as myself. And then our Director of Emergency Management, Jason Hemaway, was in attendance as well. The committee met on September 17th and reviewed a number of items. First was a municipal emergency plan, and at that time there was no recommendations for changes, other than we did identify during our event that we needed to update some of our contact information in there. That's done annually. Usually January of each year, and by September it was already updated in some areas, so that was interesting. As well, we reviewed the emergency management bylaw that was presented tonight for first reading. We did an information brief on the ammonia leak that we had to open our emergency operations center. We reviewed the public communication tool called Connect, and that was recommended that administration gather more information and explore this as a budget item in 2020. So basically it's a tool that we would be able to use. We identified as part of our debrief of the event that happened in September that we needed to improve our communication to the residents. And so this is a tool that may assist us with that. We reviewed the public emergency information package. Again, this came out of our debrief that perhaps there should be an education program put in place so that we could educate the community on what our plan is, how they can prepare themselves in the event of an emergency and those kind of things. So Jason worked on preparing this package, so that's being reviewed by the committee, and we'll provide feedback to Jason on that. We also reviewed the evacuation plan, and again, we'll give feedback to him. And then Jason gave an update on the training exercises that are going on. The emergency management team their training is ongoing, and the majority of staff have already taken their basic emergency management, as well as the incident command system, or ICS 100 training. 7 staff still have to take that training, and will be going to the BEM and ICS 100 on October 7th and 29th. And then we're also hosting an ICS 200 training here on October 31st and November 1st, and the ICS 300 on April 7th and 9th in 2020. Those are requirements that are under the new Emergency Management Act that staff in certain roles have to have certain training. As well, we're planning a tabletop emergency management exercise joint with the MD of Willow Creek on November 26th. And we will be hosting that here. So as per the Act, the Emergency Advisory Committee is providing this information to Council as required.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take that for information. 32, information brief. CAO report.
That's a great idea.
Any questions come out of that?
Do you want on the immigration town
Yeah,
hall?
immigration.
Did I skip one? Yep, I did. Again. 31, immigration town hall. Period.
So with the immigration pilot project, we're planning a immigration town hall meeting for Saturday, November 9th. And it's an opportunity to inform the residents and employers in Claresholm, Grantham, Staveley, and about the rural and northern immigration pilot project. Invitations have been sent because we are the only municipality in Alberta. We've sent invitations to the Premier, the Minister of Labour and Immigration, the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, the Minister of Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada, the MLA, Roger Reid, as well as the MP, John Barlow, the Chamber of Commerce, and others, key stakeholders who are partnering with the town in this project. So there's some agencies who have put forward their support for our project. So that, we'd like you to put that in your calendars for Saturday, November 9th. Oh, yes, that's a good point, yeah. So we are going to consider that your quarterly open house. Unless you'd like to do another one, we'd be glad if you have a topic, but we thought this was a good topic.
No, this one's good.
Excellent.
Did we hear back from anybody? Or has the invitation has been sent?
They've just been sent.
Just been sent.
The ones, the Canadian ones, we won't hear back on any of that until after the election,
Yeah.
right?
But the provincial ones.
Yeah.
But it was based around when the provincial guys were
Yeah, and
available.
Roger is working closely with Brady on the connection with the province as well.
Nice.
No, I think that's a great thing for
So
Claresholm.
we're gonna use this as an open house topic on November 9th, and we're inviting the public, not just the businesses.
Yes, exactly. This is for the community.
Right, okay, good.
Such a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll move to the CAO report. Any questions on that?
There is a whistle.
There is a
Sure, it's
whistle.
interesting.
There's a whistle.
I don't know where that came from.
Okay,
You guys do a lot of stuff in this office.
yeah. It's a busy place. Okay, we'll move on to 33, council resolutions. Any questions there?
I'll make a motion to accept those.
Information items? Question?
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to adopt the information right items as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Motion to go in camera, please. Councillor Moore. All in favor going in camera? Carried. Camera off, please.
I'd like to make a motion to come out of in camera.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. You're out.
You ready?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the offer of $126,000 from Structural Precast to purchase Lot 2, Lot 3, Lot 4 of Block 10, Plan 79-10032. Regarding, with negotiations regarding conditions to be discussed as part of the purchase agreement.
You see how she's typed.
Okay.
Question?
Moved by Councillor Cutler to accept the offer of $126,000 from Structural Precast in principle for lots 2, 3, and 4, Block 10, Plan 7910032, with negotiations regarding conditions to be discussed as part of the purchase agreement.
You good with that?
I like that.
All in favor? Carried. Councillor Carlson,
Motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned. Camera off, please.